Starter packages. Where do we begin in the game? So, today, we're going to go over some of these starter packs. Best case scenario, maybe you'll get something out of it as far as if you're new to the game and you haven't actually purchased a starter pack yet, you can actually decide what you need. Obviously, they range anywhere from $45 on up to thousands if you're a concierge. Which obviously, if you're starting out, you're not usually. So we'll just cover the basics, what I consider to be the regular starter up to. I usually consider anything under 100 a starter, but I'll go ahead and cover the Cutlass, the Freelancer, and the Hornet F7C, even though that's going to be a limited time. As they're making that more or less a defunct ship at this point. So let's start out with answering a few questions. So, what do I want to do? How much money do I want to put in? How much am I going to play? So forth. Just all these little things. And there's probably hundreds of questions you could ask yourself that would determine what is the best starter ship. If you're literally looking to get into it for just the minimum amount of money possible, I would probably go with the Aurora MR. Doesn't have much in the way of cargo space. Doesn't really have any place to put stuff. I mean, it does have a bed, so you can bed log, which not all of them do. So, for instance, the Mustang Alpha, the Pisces Expedition do not have beds, so you can't bed log in them. But you're also limited as far as what you can do with the Aurora. I would not get the Mustang Alpha or the Arrow or the F7C unless you are heavily into PvP, and even then I think I'd actually buy those in-game rather than buy them as a starter package. You're much better off going with something that has at least 3 to 4 SCU of cargo space, obviously preferably more. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over some of these ships and see what their actual stats are and so forth. So for instance, the Aurora, since we've already talked about that a little bit, so there's a holographic view of it. See, specifications wise, lists no cargo capacity and hard points. So we actually do have a couple of size 1 weapon turrets. So you're not going to be going crazy with this. This is literally the cheapest you can get in. The best you can do is probably run some small delivery missions. Maybe do some bunkers, although there's better ships for that, obviously. Especially with respawning inside ships now, and tier 3 medbeds and so forth. That's coming back in lately. So, overall, the Aurora is going to be, I want to get into the game, I don't want to spend any more money than I have to, and I want to be able to play. That's it. So that's your best bet. So moving on from that, we'll go over the Mustang Alpha just in case anybody's interested in it. Again, same thing. Specifications. Well, here's what it will look like hollow viewer wise. It's a fighter, literally. Bare bones, starter, you name it. Cargo capacity says 4. However, you got to keep in mind that it does not hold a full cargo SCU container. So it has 4 SCU of cargo storage. That's literally on the back here. This area right here opens, and you could actually put boxes in there and so forth like that. So theoretically, yes, you could do box missions with it. However, it's not ideal. It's very small. It has no beds. You can't bed log in it, which you may have to do like an emergency if you have to get offline because you got to go an emergency, whatever. Which you may not be worried about at that point, but still. And it's cheap. So for the same amount of money, you get the Aurora, and it has a bed. Next up, we have the Pisces Expedition. Again, very basic. So specification wise, we've got 4 cargo capacity. This is actually usable for cargo capacity. So you can actually have 4 1 SCU containers in it, or theoretically 2 SCUs. Does not have a bed, so you cannot log out in it. but it is a small ship, and it's actually one of the few ships, especially in the starter range, that you can actually call from a vehicle pad at the mining outpost as well. So if something happens where your ship gets blown up or something like that and you're at a mining outpost, you can still call it again. So still a pretty good ship. But again, it's like, it depends on what you want to do with it. If you just need something to get from point A to point B, you're not going to worry about bed logging, then that might be an option. Is it worth the extra $15? Probably not. But it is a decent little ship. And then from there, we move into the cutter. Now, the cutter starter package, just a regular cutter. Basically, think minimalistic space RV. That's literally what this thing looks like inside. You got your door in the back, cockpit up front, living space, and cargo area. It has 4 SCU capacity, so you can do minimal cargo runs. You can actually do delivery missions real easily because of the way the space is set up. You can literally just drop it right inside the door, go up to your cockpit, take off. The big thing with this is you have quite a bit of capacity for Quantanium fuel, which means literally you can fly around on this thing on the default drive. It seems like forever. You can make multiple jumps across system with it and not be out of fuel. So fuel is not that expensive right now, so it's not that big of a factor. But if you're going, say, from bunker to bunker, or you're doing various things, then this is actually a good choice. From there, we start moving up into a little bit more. So we go up to $65 with the 100i starter pack. This is part of the Origin line of ships. They're supposed to be a little fancier. So it does have a bed. Looks a little sleeker, looks a little nicer. Again, 2 cargo capacity, so not very big. If you have any aspirations towards cargo, none of these early ones are probably going to be it. But it has a bed and it's functional. And it's actually a pretty quick ship. If I remember correctly, it also has a fuel scoop. Means that you can refuel your hydrogen, not Quantanium, but your hydrogen, which is what you use for local flying. And then we move into there to the more expensive, more specialized ships. So the Avenger Titan, the Sulin starter, the Arrow starter. Those are, well, the Sulin's not really a fighter, but it is fast. It does have some pretty good firepower right off the bat, but it still has some cargo capacity. So the Titan, on the other hand, when we look at the overview for it, it almost seems like this would be a good selection for the best selection for the starter ship. Just overall. So comes with fairly decent weapons right off the bat. You see that big gun on the front. I think that's usually a Revenant Gatling or something equivalent to that. So packs quite a punch. Specifications, it actually has 8 SCU cargo capacity, so that's double what any of the other ones have at least. And it's a pretty quick ship. 260 SCM speed, 1400 afterburner speed. In the days of master modes, that's actually good. They've actually gave this ship a significant bump. And the fact that it's actually only $75 puts it well in the probably best for the category type ship. So, not going to say that's my preferred starter, but it is a good option. The Sulin, on the other hand, is one of the first starter ships that's a actual alien ship. Now keep in mind, this ship is different to fly, especially landing and taking off. It basically lands in this configuration here. So you have to basically lift off, slide out the doors, or you have to lift off and turn immediately over at 90 degrees so that you can actually fly straight out. And then obviously if you do that and you actually extend the arms out, because these arms actually extend out more level when it's in flight mode as compared to landing, you could end up clipping the hanger on the way out. But 6 cargo capacity, very quick ship compared to the other ones with the exception of the Titan. And it's a pretty nice ship. I mean, it's got a bed you can, get in. If you're into the alien type thing, then this might be a good selection. All right, from there we move into kind of the used to be kind of the default meta fighter ship, the Arrow. Um, doesn't have a lot of weapons. I mean, it has 3 weapons, or a size 3 weapons, I think it is. Um, has, missiles, so forth. I mean, just your standard fighter. Pretty sleek, corners well, flies well. Was considered actually one of the most maneuverable ships in the game for quite a while. But again, no cargo capacity, no bit. This is strictly for somebody who only wants to do ship-to-ship combat and has no interest in any other aspect of the game. I would not bother with this unless that's your thing. I would buy this in-game and use it there. Because they're not that expensive. I think they're only maybe a couple million, if that. From there, we move into some of the larger, so kind of the medium, I guess you'd call them, like small medium ships, specifically the Nomad. Um, so weapons, these are all be similar weapon-wise. It's an interesting ship. It's different than just about any other ship. So, for instance, there is no landing gear per se. It uses hover technology. So you have these little arms that come down and it hovers off the ground. The other thing, too, is the cargo is in the back. But you got to keep in mind, you're coming up on $100 for a starter ship now, so you should get a little more out of it. Specification-wise, 24 SCU, that's triple the Titan. Where this comes really into play is if you actually have an idea of some of the loops you want to do. Now, if you have the $95 or whatever it is, $95, if you have that, you want to get into the cargo specifically right off the bat, especially with 323.2 coming out probably within the next month or so, then you can do it. And assuming they may even have some lower missions that will actually do 24 SCU, missions. Where this ship really shines is if you get into rock mining, which is small ground-based vehicle mining. We can probably find a copy of it here somewhere. Let me see. So basically, a rock is this ship here. And if your industrial play is where it's really at for you, then this is the ticket. Ground-based vehicle, single player. You actually drive around on the surface with this, find deposits of gems, break the gem rocks, collect them. That is where the Nomad shines, because you can actually store your rock right here in the back in the cargo shed. It does fit. There's no worrying about getting doors or anything else. And then once it's actually on the pad, you can actually take the gems out of the rock and store them in the Nomad, which protects them from getting lost. Speed-wise, it's decent. Afterburner speed, decent. Only requires one person to fly and fight. You're not winning any combat medals here. This ship is not a combat ship, really. I mean, it does have weapons, but doesn't have any missiles or anything like that. So it's bare minimum cargo ship. Next up, we have the Cutlass Black, which is kind of the, how do we want to put it? It's kind of the everyday ship you can use, I guess you'd call it. It's more of you see a lot of pirate ships that are Cutlass Blacks, just in general in the verse. Again, it's actually got more weapons, more missiles. I think it has like 16 missiles that it comes with. It has a turret. It has multiple hardpoint turrets as well. Fuel intakes, so forth, all that. So it's a bump up, but you pay for that. You get 46 capacity, SCU, storage. So again, if you're primarily into cargo running, then this might be the ship for you. Now keep in mind, this does say minimum crew of 2, maximum crew of 2. That's to use the turret. You can fly this ship, use the guns, use the missiles without having to have the turret manned. But again, you're paying for that privilege, $125. A lot of people wouldn't necessarily consider that a starter package, which is why I said I consider starters under 100. But I am covering this because if somebody has specific interest in cargo, then this might be a good way to go. It's a good overall all around ship. You can rock mine with it. You can do decent cargo with it starting out. You can do delivery missions. You can do other small stuff because I mean for the beginners, it's for PVE. It's actually got a decent loadout for weapons. So it is a good starter ship. Just expensive. From that, we'll move into the Freelancer, which is $125. Same as the Cutlass. But it differs a little bit. So this doesn't actually list the weapons. It does actually have weapons. It does have a turret. Everything else is pretty similar. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of them, but that's just because I don't like the way they look. But I'm not a big fan of the whole rounded. I mean, just call it what it is. You know what it looks like. But you do get a bump of another 20 SCU of cargo capacity over the Cutlass. Speed-wise, it's decent for a ship that size. The other thing I'm not a big fan of is if you look at the beginning up here, this is your window that you're looking out of when you're in the cockpit flying. So it actually cuts off quite a bit. Now, the nice thing about this ship is it does have a door on the side with a ladder. So if something's going goofy with the ramp or you've got a full load, like packed to the max, you can still get in the ship. The Cutlass, you can only enter on the ramp. And I think the Titan is one of the other ones that you actually have 2 points of entry. So overall, it's a good ship if you want to do cargo. It's probably the top level of the starter ships for cargo. And then at the same price point, you have this Hornet F7C. If you want this, you need to buy it quick because this is going away. They are getting rid of it. They have the Hornet Mark II out now. And you can actually have, where you can even, if you hurry, you can actually get in the game loop to get the F7A instead of the F7C. You get a free upgrade token to it. But again, it's obsolete. Cargo capacity, it's kind of a joke. Does not have cargo capacity of 2 unless they're talking about when you take the turret off on the top of the ship. But if you want to turn on top of the ship, then you don't have that cargo capacity. Right up in here is where there's a turret's position. And they actually have a cargo box that goes in there so that you can put stuff in there. But when it's on the ground, how are you going to get to it? Type thing. So that's kind of a crock saying this thing has 2 SCU of cargo. So that's pretty much the loadout of the ships. Obviously, you can go Constellation is kind of the last single ship starter ship, but 275 is definitely not a starter package in my opinion. And it's a multi-crew ship. To really get the most from it, you really need more than one person. All these other ones you can do with a single person. So overall, I would say if I had to start out today, I would probably go with the Avenger Titan. Or I would go with the Cutter. These are the minimal amounts of money to be effective. Now, if you want to bump it up and you want to go a little higher, personally, I like the Cutlass over the Freelancer. If I'm going to go solo mining with a rock, then the Nomad is the way to go. So it really comes down to what works best for you. Again, and then of course you also have that option of I'm going minimal. And I'm just going to put as little money into as possible, and I'll make all my money in game and buy ships in there, which is a totally valid and feasible process or possibility. So that's pretty much my wrap up of starter ships. Let me know what you think. Comment below. Let me know what do you think is the better starter ship. If you know somebody who's actually just getting into the game, shoot them this. Maybe that'll help them to understand a little bit of what their options were, because when I first started in this game, I'll be honest, I bought the Aurora because I didn't want to spend any more money than I had to. After about a day of playing with it, I realized that, frankly, it sucked for what I wanted to do. So then I upgraded to the Titan. Now I don't even have an Avenger Titan starter pack. I actually have a Cutter starter pack. And I also have a Sulin starter pack, just because I like both of those ships for different reasons. I do actually, I believe, have a Titan in-game, just because it's a nice fly back and forth ship. All right, so that's Bulmac's take on it. You'll have a good day. Let me know what you think in the comments.